Welcome to Live from Dennis's House. Today we are spotlighting Young, Gifted, and Black, released January 24th, 1972. And my guest is the great Arlen Feiles. Let's hear it for Arlen.
Woo! Thank you for having me.
All right. So I want to talk about 1972.
It's a good year.
Yes. And it was, I'm sure you recall, this was the year of the Battle of 227th Street. I'm sure everybody's heard
Clear
about
in my
this.
memory.
that everyone's memory is a little foggy now about this event. Nobody knows how it really happened, how it really started, but it was around these two people named Gaspar and Denise. So it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet of the ghetto, if
Very
you will.
tumultuous situation.
I will.
So I'm not sure if they were dating or what went on, but they were teenagers. They were a little older than me at the time. So whatever happened, whatever transpired, it all came to a head on July 4th, 1972, the year of our Lord. And they lived like kind of adjacent to each other. And they were both having family parties on this same day, right? And then no one knows what transpired, but I was around the corner sitting on my porch. We just got finished a rousing game of Stratomatic baseball, I think, or something like that. And someone came running by yelling, "Fight, fight, fight!" And of course, what do? You just run after them and follow them and see what happened, right? So we go around the corner. And to this day, I'm still scarred by this image, a 7-year-old watching this, that it was both complete sets of families in the middle of the street in a full-out Donnybrook, as they would call it back then.
Yeah.
That it was like 4 generations fighting. It was
Hatfields
like
and McCoys,
exactly.
man.
That's what it was like.
Serious, man.
That it was like little kids hitting each other with teddy bears, all the way up to adult men punching each other in the face. Ants with beehives and stretch pants whacking each other. And I even saw one like grandmother hitting someone over the head with a lasagna.
This is Brooklyn style.
This was in Queens.
Wow. Sound like Brooklyn to me.
Yeah, so it went on for what seemed like hours, but the cops came, and it was like the paddy wagons even came. And
well, you hit somebody over the head with lasagna. That's like assault with a deadly weapon, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they carted everybody away, and there was like food and blood and ripped stretch pants and wigs all over the floor for like days after. And
I remember we had a fight over the matzah once when I was a kid. So that's not quite the same thing, is it?
Yeah, so
not quite the blood and
Fight
guts.
over the matzah.
yeah, so there was no clear-cut winner, but it did leave a bad mark on the neighborhood. And shortly afterwards, they both moved away. And
But you don't know why.
no, nobody knows why.
day.
It's just, it was kind of, vague. No one's talking. If anyone does know, they're not talking. All right, so now we're going to start the show off with a long-distance dedication to Gaspar and his uncle. So let's listen to Rock Steady by Aretha Franklin. Now we're going to talk about a Man About Town segment, see what I did this crazy week. Wonderful time that I had. I went to a record show this week.
Great.
And, before that, I actually went to a record store. I had a little incident in the record store that I want to talk about. That
Donnybrook?
He has an incident everywhere he goes.
that I like to be alone and unmolested while I'm shopping for records, right? So I'm in this store and I'm taking my time. There was nobody in there, right? So it was cool that there was a few people here and there, right? So I'm in the middle. There's a big rack from A to Z. I'm at M at this point, right? And there's a guy behind me in the new record department. And all of a sudden, he comes around and goes right like to N. Instead of starting from the end, he starts right next to me, which, I let slide.
My.
That was bad enough. But then I had a stack of records on top so I could quickly flip through. And he moved my records. He touched my records. And the first rule of record shopping is never touch another man's records. So I thought about punching him in the throat, but I let it go. Because that's the new me. Hey, welcome back to Live from Dennis's House. And now we're going to go to Cha-Cha with the word on the street, the gossip columnist to the stars, and see what's happening in the terrible world of celebrity.
Well, this was terrible world, and this goes back to the fighting.
All right, so we got a theme
yes,
here.
we
It's
do
all
have a theme here
fisticuff
today.
theme. Now, Arlen's a man of peace, I believe.
I am. This is very uncomfortable.
Well, wait till you hear this story.
No, I like a good fight.
Oh, this is pretty good. It was Vince Neil and Nicolas Cage get into a huge physical fight in Las Vegas. Vince allegedly attacked a woman in a hotel, and Vince is now subject to a criminal investigation. Sources were told that a woman came up to Nick Cage for an autograph, and Vince allegedly got behind the woman and grabbed her by the hair and pulled her down to the ground.
Wow.
Yes.
Would have never saw that happening.
I mean, Nick,
Yes, Motley Crue seems to respect women a lot. You know,
I'm thinking there was alcohol involved, but so Nick was trying to calm Vince down and taking him outside, and that's where like all the cameras were, and they see him in a chokehold, and he's trying to implore him to calm down, and he's got him in a neck choke or neck
choking him
hold.
out like an MMA fighter.
He's trying to get him into the car. And the cops reported that Vince was cited for battery, but was never taken to the station.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that ain't right.
No.
I bet if you choked a woman to the ground, they would
you would have been tased, for sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Sprayed with mace by the woman and then tased by the cops and then put in jail.
Yeah.
That's
Could you
not right.
imagine asking a guy for an autograph and being thrown into the ground?
By Vince Neil, nonetheless.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, right. That seems a little excessive, don't you think?
I think there was alcohol or
She
something
cut the line.
involved. I mean,
That's what happens.
sounds like anger. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, what are you going to do? That's Vince Neil.
And
So
to me, there's no other word on the street.
that's it.
That's it.
Good word on the street. Hey, welcome to Live from Dennis's house. And now we're going to talk to my guest, Arlan Feiles, a great singer-songwriter. And Arlan has a new documentary out called 50 Miles. Now, I watched this the other day, and it was quite amazing. I wasn't expecting it to be this amazing. And
What does that mean?
I never expect anything to be as good as it actually is.
Fair enough.
I expect everything to
enough.
be crabby, right? And then I'm sometimes pleasantly surprised. And I was even more pleasantly surprised than I thought it was going to be.
High praise.
Now, yes. And it was a very interesting story, which I'm going to ask you to tell here. But, like, for me, I pretty much know everything and everybody about everything. And this I'd never heard of this woman before.
It got past you.
Yes,
huh?
I don't understand.
Well, sadly,
so yeah, tell us all about
Viola's
this.
story has gotten past a lot of people.
Right.
Viola?
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
us her name and the whole thing about it.
Her name is Viola Liuzzo. And I wrote the song about her about 12 years ago now. Viola was a Detroit housewife. She was watching what was going on during the Civil Rights Movement in the South. And inspired by Dr. King, she answered his call to go to Selma as a volunteer to participate in the march from Selma to Montgomery. And in doing so, while she was carpooling marchers back and forth between Montgomery and Selma, she was chased and ran off the road by a car full of KKK members and one undercover CIA agent, and was executed on the side of the road. The young black man that was in the car with her survived.
Oh, okay.
There was years of litigation because of the CIA guy, and this is still actually an ongoing story, believe it or not.
Wow.
It may have been the CIA agent who fired the bullet that that actually killed her. He was working undercover. So Viola, who left this comfortable life at home for a cause that she was so motivated by, inspired by, that she had to leave her 5 kids and husband back in Detroit, get in her car and drive all the way to Selma, Alabama, just to find herself dead on the side of the road. I found her story so awe-inspiring. Her sacrifice that she made is clearly, unusual and outstanding. I've been performing the song for years. I'm trying to make this story short, but I performed it one year. It happened to be the day before Martin Luther King, and there was a writer from the Asbury Park Press there. she wrote a little article about me in the song, which found its way to one of her daughters, who sent me the next day on Martin Luther King Day the most beautiful letter thanking me for honoring her mother. And that was followed by a couple more letters from other daughters with an invitation to come join the family in Shreveport, Louisiana, to perform and to help them accept the honor from the mayor that they were proclaiming it Viola Liuzzo Day that year.
Wow.
And so several years now have passed, and they've become quite close friends of mine, and I've traveled to different places in the country to perform at events that they've taken part in, and civil rights events, and they were kind enough to honor me with an invitation to come to Selma for the 50th anniversary of the march, where they were having a memorial on the side of the road where their mother was murdered, and a memorial of lies. And so I went down to perform Viola and another song I wrote specific for the event called 50 Miles. And a friend of mine came along with me and documented the thing, and I put together a short 15-minute documentary of my experience that shares my experience, which I felt was life transformative, and also to share Viola's story, which, again, as you've expressed, is very few people have known, and only since Obama mentioned her name at his inauguration has she become more and more acknowledged as a true hero of the civil rights movement. And she was the only white woman killed, actually, during that movement time, that during a civil rights event. Her 5 children, and they're really wonderful people, and they're carrying her torch. And I made this short documentary called 50 Miles, like you said.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get it out there and just to share her story.
This woman was quite amazing. This movie was quite amazing, quite moving. If I had a soul, I might have cried, but I heard other people were crying, but I would never cry.
I had a soul.
So
It's good to know yourself.
Oh,
yes. So yeah, it's such an amazing story that I couldn't believe that I never heard of it, because it was right around the same time those 3 kids were killed, and that was everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about that.
Well, it's believe it or not, this story created such a outrage through country that this white woman was murdered. At that time, it was a big news item. In fact, Lyndon B. Johnson spoke of it on the news that night, and it became really kind of the shot heard around the world. It was the catalyst that got the Voting Rights Act passed.
Wow.
Because people were so outraged.
And how'd they keep it so quiet all these years that I never heard of it? Nick, did you ever hear of this? Yeah.
Well, we're out to make sure that more people hear about this.
How did you first hear about Viola?
I heard it on the History Channel
Okay.
during a civil rights movement documentary about the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act.
Speaking of music now, we're going to talk to Arlen about his music, because we just recorded 3 songs right before the show, and it was ridiculous. Normally, I only let people record 2 songs, but it was so good that I have to let him do a 3rd song. Actually, I requested he did a 3rd. And Nick was crying during some of those songs. They were so
we handed him a napkin.
But yeah, it was just it was amazing. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
That so yeah, I'm going to let you talk about your career, because I understand you were born in California, and how you got involved with Aretha Franklin and playing, because you're very soul gospel.
I do.
Singer.
I like my gospel. I grew up in, like you said, I grew up in Los Angeles. And in the early 70s, when I was a kid, I can remember being in the backseat of my folks' Monte Carlo, and then, AM radio, and on a Sunday afternoon, we'd take a drive, and they'd run in to do an errand, and I'd hop over the seat, and I'd change the channel to the live gospel shows that they'd have coming out of Watts, and I just loved it. I loved the energy. Maybe a little strange for a Jewish kid from LA to be listening to gospel. Well, at least my mom thought it was peculiar. But something really spoke to me about the honesty and sincerity of the expression of those songs. And it's slowly become a part of my style. It's incorporated in a lot of different ways. So it speaks to me quite clearly. I left Los Angeles to go to Berklee School of Music when I was 18, and from there I had a band that did a lot of traveling, spent some time down in Florida. We had a band called Natural Causes that performed quite a bit around the state in the Southeast. And I was approached by a gentleman named Tom Dowd, who
yes.
lived down there, and he took me under his wing. Tom, if you don't know, if the audience doesn't know, Tom Dowd is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame producer. He started recording society bands back in the 40s in New York City. He worked in a demo studio recording Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Mingus.
Coltrane, I heard.
Moved on to become Atlantic Records, essentially. He built the first 8-track recorder after Les Paul built his. He built the first commercial one. He designed it. He put slide faders on a console, first time that had been done. Something he learned in the Army when he was working on the Manhattan Project when he was 16.
Wow.
So the guy was quite brilliant, and he went on to discover the Allman Brothers and record Aretha Franklin and John Coltrane and Ray Charles and Bobby Darin's Splish Splash and a number of fantastic hits. And he was a wonderful mentor and a friend and like a father to me for many years. He's since passed. But it turned out that his name, after I met him, and I was like, your name sounds familiar. I went back to my record collection, and I found that his name was like on every record. So I guess it's not a huge surprise that he gravitated towards my music. I was inspired by every artist. He was a wonderful horn and string arranger. He did a great deal of the arrangements and the records he produced. This record, Young, Gifted, and Black by Aretha Franklin, that I brought to you today to share, which I have this autographed version from Aretha.
Wow. Let's talk about that, too.
It was very cool to meet her. I said, hey, we've got a common friend, Tom Dowd. She goes, you know Tommy Dowd? And she put her arm around me. She's like, you're with me. And she dragged me around with her for a whole night.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Talking about her old days with Atlantic. And
she looks like a nice woman.
She does look like a nice woman.
She was a real sweetheart there. It was a real privilege to spend the time with her.
Ridiculous.
And the fact that Tom also produced this album, this kind of brings all the things I love about music together in one album.
Yeah.
It represents the music I love deep in my heart, and it also is produced by one of my heroes and one of my favorite people I have ever had the pleasure to work with, Tom Dowd.
Let's talk about where you are now, what you've been up to, and what you got coming up, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm working on...
How did you get your way? You live in New Jersey now?
I married a Jersey girl, long story short. Now I'm a Jersey guy, 13 years later. 2 little girls.
Nice.
4 and 2.
So
my goodness.
Tessa and Layla.
Hey, Tessa and Layla.
Hi.
Hi.
Cutie pies.
They're my new inspirations.
There you go.
They're the best inspiration.
And my wife is my other hero. She's a phenomenal woman. So I'm a lucky guy.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I'm planning for a record that I'm recording live at the Strand Theater in Lakewood on July 2nd.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And I'm also recording on a studio album and producing some artists as well. So lots of things going on.
Awesome.
And,
give a shout out to you. You got a website, you got a Facebook.
I do. Well, Arlen Feiles, if you look me up, pretty much I guarantee you won't find another. Arlan Feiles.
Is that your real name?
Yeah, that's my real name. Twitter, Facebook, arlenfeilesmusic.com. Google me. It will lead you towards all things me.
So he's got a bunch of CDs here. Yeah. Go check him out. His songs are amazing. He is my new favorite singer.
I have to say,
I love that kind of music
Thank
as
you.
well. As nothing as moving as one person behind a piano, soulful voice, singing that gospel.
There was just a spooky sense of spirit that would come out of the speakers of 72 Monte Carlo on the AM dial. You can't replicate that sound. You can't find it. You can't get there.
No.
And it's that far away haunting sound that I think today on a high fidelity stereo system, I'm not sure it would have felt so so spiritual.
Yeah.
But those are some of my fondest memories.
And on MP3 wouldn't sound as good either.
No.
You need to look and touch.
The vinyl. Got to
Yes.
touch it.
Well, you have a beautiful message and a wonderful voice.
Yes.
Thank you, and I
Awesome.
really
See
appreciate you guys
sure.
having me here.
We love
now
it.
To your
We're
home,
gonna-
I thank you.
We're not done yet. We're going to take a
No.
quick break, and
All
then we're
right.
going to come back. We're going to talk about the album, and
right.
you can talk about the album. You may be the first guest who knows more about the album than me. We shall see. Hey, welcome back, and now we're going to talk about Young, Gifted, and Black. That's what they called me in high school. by the way.
Well, they did.
Yes.
I remember.
And we're going to talk about
Dennis.
Aretha Franklin. So I'm going to let you take the lead here.
Oh,
we're going to start
goodness.
from her birth. Let's say she was born March 25th, 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee.
All right.
And her father was a minister.
Yes.
And she was raised singing in the church. She had a ridiculous career. She sold ridiculously
Millions
good.
and millions of records.
Billions. She was voted the #1 greatest singer of all time on the Rolling Stone.
Agreed.
Yes.
Did you see her
And-
perform
Okay.
at the President's Honor for?
No.
No,
Just recently,
Oh
or?
goodness, yeah, it was for
recently.
Carole King,
Oh, okay.
and she came out and sang "Natural,
Woman. Oh, my God.
Man, and she sat down at the piano, which she hasn't done for years,
Yeah.
and she just sang, and you just had to
In awe.
be in awe. And then she
Yeah.
got up halfway through the song, and she walked over. She was wearing this long fur coat, and she dropped it to the floor and put her arms up in the air and absolutely just devastated the
man.
entire
God.
room.
Yeah,
It was
was
just
quite a force.
she is
within
still a
herself.
force of nature.
Yeah, Think, Respect, Chain of Fools, Natural Woman, countless others influenced every singer that ever came
Yes.
after her. She was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And thing about her too, like I said, her father was a minister, but he was kind of like a local celebrity preacher, and there was all these people in the house, she said, when she was little, like Sam Cooke, Martin Luther King even was over there.
Wow.
But it turns out her father was kind of a philanderer. I think that means he collects stamps. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Watches birds. Bird
Yes,
watcher.
that one time when she was performing in Las Vegas, her father was shot 2 times in the house. This was later on, in like the 80s or whatever. And
my God.
yeah, didn't say who shot him or anything, but he was in the hospital, ended up in a coma for a while. She moved back to take care of him, and then a couple of years later, he passed away.
Oh my.
So yeah, she
It's
had
a
a lot
life.
of tragedy in her life, just
Well,
like everybody. But
makes
you know,
great music.
Exactly.
I know.
You gotta.
It really does.
You have to have the pain in order to
Yeah. To
sing
create
like
the
that, I imagine.
amazingness. So now this album came out 72, was the 19th studio album, and it went,
19th, huh?
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't even think it was that many.
Yeah, right. You know?
Phenomenal.
And the top 10 gold certified. It won her a Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance, and it actually takes its title from Nina Simone.
Who wrote
So-
the Young, Gifted, and Black? so-
Right, and it was named the 76th greatest album of all time.
Wow. Like we talked about, Tom Dowd was one of the producers of this, was Jerry Wexler. Some of my favorites on this, Oh Me, Oh My, I was singing that
Yeah,
for
you played that a little too.
afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm a Fool for You, Baby. What a Daydreaming, Rock Steady you played. Brand New Me, I've Been Loving You Too Long. I mean, these are just the arrangements, the strings, the lush arrangements on these songs. They brought a whole new level to soul music at that time. And
Yeah, it had 5
It's
top
an
10
amazing-
songs. The only number 1 was Daydreaming, though.
Daydreaming is a great,
Yeah.
great song. And Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time? Oh, I love that song.
Yeah.
Oh, and she does the Long and
Long
Winding,
Winding
Road,
Road.
Beatles,
This is
which is a phenomenal
Ridiculously
version of
good
that
album.
song.
Wait.
Yes.
Ridiculously good. This is a great listen on both sides, especially on vinyl.
There's a lot of great players on here, too.
Oh, my God.
Dr. John, Donny Hathaway, Billy Preston, Chuck Rainey, and, of course, the great Bernard Pretty Purdy on drums.
We love
Of course,
Bernard.
man.
We
And
love
if you ever
He's our
run into
buddy.
Bernard,
He was on the show.
Was he?
He's our
Yeah,
friend.
he's
Oh my
great.
God! If you,
He talked
my
a lot
man
about
loves to
that.
talk.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
he will
does.
talk. He will tell you.
He does.
An amazing album, 5 stars, undoubtedly, and she's a national treasure. Go see her when you can. You're in for a treat, Arlen. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but now's the time of the show where we smell the album. And this is going to take you back to that car in L.A., 1972.
Yes.
Get a
I
whiff
don't know
of
what this
that.
album's been, man.
I don't either. That's the beauty of it.
vinyl.
Yes, this was not my album, so I don't know where it came from.
Oh,
It's been around.
It smells
That album's
good.
been
So
around.
now
Hold it
it
out.
is now time to do the news. All the news that's not fit to print. So I was debating whether to do this news story since Arlen is a serious man, but I am a serious
And Grandma's
journalist.
Don't let the
So-
jacket fool you.
okay.
We're gonna have
Here
to
we go,
have to
Arlen.
buckle in, and we're gonna have to just go ahead. I'm a
Buckle
serious
up.
newsman, Scoop Mojello here. So this is down south too. So this all comes into play here. So an Alabama man allegedly had sex with his wife's dog Buster because he felt she was paying too much attention to the pet. Police said Jonathan Edward Medley of Geneva was charged with animal cruelty after his wife caught him doing the deed with her 2-year-old Shih Tzu. Police told the Donathan Eagle newspaper. His wife made the disgusting discovery while spying on Medley for fear he was sleeping with another woman, police said. She actually thought he was having an affair with another woman and hid a recording device. She learned he was in fact molesting the dog. Morgan told WTVY Medley was upset because his wife paid more attention to the dog than him. So Medley, 39, was held on $535 bail after his arrest.
535? That
That's
seems
it.
awful random.
He only faces a misdemeanor charge as per Alabama law on bestiality.
Well,
So
it
now
is
Alabama.
Alabama.
that's what we need to discuss here.
Let's wonder where.
That $535 for this act. This is a heinous act that if someone does this, they will do anything. Nothing. What would they say no to then? That, I think it should be at least $600 fine.
Well,
and
that's
it's
for a
$1,000. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, I
So-
was about to say, what do they get you for a goat? How much?
Yeah,
That's
does
the
it go
goal,
up
bro.
per animal?
It's like $10 per.
a camel or something would be more money, or a sheep or whatever. But I don't know. I don't want to
Oh, goodness.
alienate anybody. But
Well, they
Alabama,
probably have a
Too
few repeat
late.
offenders, so they have to start low enough
That's
so
it,
that when they
Arlen
start
said.
piling up the fines,
it's just like
within range.
I think the death penalty would be reasonable for this. That, like I said, there's no coming back from this. It's not like
It's
you're
like a
then going to
child,
become a
right?
member of society and
Oh,
productive and all of this.
yeah.
This is something that's so wrong inside of your soul.
There's nowhere to go but
yes,
down
that
from
even
there.
maybe listening to hours and hours of Aretha Franklin
bring you
might
back.
bring you back. But other than that, there's no hope for you. So I'm sick and disgusted by that story, but I felt I had to read it.
Where's that sheet?
So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Tear that sheet up.
All right, so before we close up now, we're going to talk about Arlen. You got any last words
Any
here?
last words?
Anything you want to put in here?
Well, make sure that you vote coming up.
In November, right? That's when the
Whoever
election
you
is?
choose to vote for, just do it.
Just do it.
And I respect that. And yeah, sure, why not buy my record?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's
come
worth
see
it.
me perform sometime, anytime.
You definitely.
Thank you again for having me
Thanks
on.
for
I
coming
appreciate
on.
it.
And I got to
Thank
say,
you.
you definitely need to buy his stuff and
Yes.
check him out. That I don't just say this willy nilly. That I really love this. Thanks for joining us here on Live from Dennis's house, only on 474 The Mix, where the
right.
music matters. See you next week when I'll be doing another classic album and behaving badly. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, DennisMojello.com. Watch me on the radio and hear me on TV and all social media.